Hello and welcome back to Drams for Dummies. I am Brett, the numero uno dummy. I'm laughing at myself because it's been a while, first of all. And if you are a follower of the station, channel, whatever we call it, thank you so much. And I'm sorry that I've been gone, and I'm not going to get into the whys and whats of life and why things do and don't happen. But long story short, I was like, I'm not going to do that anymore. But here I am, doing it again. And I was laughing because I think I may have introduced the channel completely wrong. I may have completely forgotten what the name of the channel was. Or I may have just done it wrong here. Either way, I'm out of practice. All that to say, thanks for joining me. I missed you guys. I'm so excited to be back. Let's dive in. We are back in action with the Blind Barrels service. Again, not going to go into all the details for the sake of time, but it's a subscription service. They send you 4 bottles labeled like this with like just the Blind Barrels and an A, or in this case a B, because this is the second bottle of it. And it's amazing. They're showcasing and highlighting independent distilleries around the country and all of the crazy, weird, fun, magical things that they're doing that are, we know Kentucky and Tennessee and the standard. This is all everything's just different. Sometimes it is kind of standard and it's beautiful and it's awesome. And you find a new distillery that does it the standard, beautiful way. And sometimes it's completely quirky and different. And it doesn't hit you right. Sometimes you find a new thing and it hits you just right in the sweet spot that none of the other things you've ever had have. Great service. Fun to get a box every quarter. This is the December box that I'm just finally diving into with you guys. All right. So, bottle B from Blind Barrels. Nice. It's kind of hard to tell on my cheap, crappy camera in my kitchen with the backgrounds and the stuff, but I would say that is especially compared to bottle A, that was kind of a urine-y yellow. This has a nice bourbon-y whiskey color, just a nice kind of amber, not crazy dark by any stretch, but it looks like it's got some age or some finish on it. So let's see what the nose is doing here. Woo! I was like, and then it went zing right into my brain. So again, is that proof? Is that youth? Is that Brett took too big of a smell? Let's take another whiff at it. I like it. It also could be a single malt. It has that earthy, and it just flew out of my brain. Peaty, earthy, scotchy, single malty kind of thing. So that's in there. It could be a rye that could kind of get into that earthy terroir, right? But it's good. It's got a richness to it. I like a nose that's different every time, and I say that a lot. And a lot of times it's because it comes from age, proof, complexity. These craft distilleries, these smaller distilleries, I think, get some of these quirky noses too, just because of the different grains they're using, the different techniques they're using. So now I can't, especially with Blind Barrels, I can't just lock in and go, oh, that complex nose must be because XYZ. I will be a fool to say it, so I'm not. But it is. It's nice. It's rich. It's got a creaminess to it. It could be proof. It could be youth, but there is a little bit of a opening and clearing side. Not necessarily bad. It's not. I'm not going to ding it on it. So what I want to do is I'm going to go a little bit of a drink because the drink will inform the nose. Then I'll come back to the nose, give it a score. Yeah, it's kind of confectionery. It's got a bakery, kind of a baked good cookie. And now I got the palate in my mind a little bit too, so I kind of want to start going there. But I kind of am thinking more rye now. It's got that kind of rye feel and that graininess to it. But it also has kind of I want to go like a ginger snap cookie. So that sort of spicy, but still sweet, quirky nose and palate that comes with a ginger snap cookie, and I like a good ginger snap cookie. So I'm going to kind of thinking of maybe more rye, gingery, but it's good. So on my new scale, I'm going to go 7 on the nose, which is a good nose. And actually, almost could be an 8. Could almost go to the really good nose. It's fun. A little bit of that sour milk funk that comes in, again, can come in the single malts a lot. Has been known to come in wheaters before. Doesn't as much hit me in ryes, so who the hell knows? I've twisted all of you and myself into a pretzel at this point. So let's go to the ye old Palate. Okay. The Palate's nice. It really is. It's not super complex. It doesn't take you on any kind of a ride. Kind of sits in one spot, but the spot's got depth to it. It's kind of a rich confectionery, baking, cookie spice kind of thing. So I'm still getting that kind of cookies. The ginger snap is still in there. And it just feels, I want to say this, kind of warm and inviting, which I think a lot of our bourbons and whiskeys can do that for us, have that kind of campfire, kitchen baking sort of feel to it. So this is doing nice things for me. I like this. I'm gonna give the Palate a 7. Again, it's not deep, it's not complex. It's not doing any zigs and zags to show like maybe crazy age or proof, but it's nice and it's comforting and it's like a big warm hug. But the finish feels like it, unless it tricks me on that last drink, that I feel like the finish is hurting the drink. It's going to hurt the overall score, but we'll see. Let's do one more round here. Better than I remember. Better than I thought it was going to be. Kind of nothing. Kind of ineffectual. So it didn't wreck it and just cause chaos in the mouth. But that drink, the finish let the palate do its thing. It didn't do, hey, palate, and then just wreck it with a bunch of nonsense and noise, if that makes any sense. It sort of let it the finisher sort of just, it just let that palate dissipate, and then it was just, I don't know. And then what was there in the background at the end of the finish was just, a little youth, a little bit of astringency. It's not great at the finish, but it didn't wreck it. So I'm going to give it a 5 on the finish. Average finish. It was just... The difference between 4 and 5, I've labeled 4 not my jam, based on Matt and ADHD Whiskey. Shout out. But 5 average, it's a fine line, right? Like, not my jam. I mean, I didn't love the finish, but it didn't offend me. So I'm gonna be nice to it and give it a 5. So that's a 19. That's a 6.3 that will round to a 6, which is pretty good. Pretty good. So now we get to the fun of the blind barrels is we get to scan the QR code. There's one on each bottle. There's also one on the tasting card, the nosing tasting note card. Right there's your QR code. So you can do this a million different ways, and if it's like usual, it's going to take me in, and it's going to ask me if I'm 21. I'm going to say yes, and then it might bop me right back out again. So I'm on sample B. It didn't ask me this time. And this is one I've heard of. A lot of times with blind barrels, that's the fun. I'm like, I've never heard of this in my life. Andalusia or whatever I had from Texas on Bottle A, hadn't heard of that before. This is Dark Arts. Heard good things. But never had. So this is another one where I'm like, I'm intrigued. Let's read about it together. So this is Dark Arts Whiskey House from Lexington, Kentucky. The whiskey in the bottle is a straight bourbon whiskey. So finished with toasted. Oh gosh. The first is the theme of the box this quarter. Confusing words you've never heard before, because I feel like I got a pretty good vocabulary, and they're testing me with the Andalusia, and now I've got Straight bourbon whiskey finished with toasted Jupiles, Jupils, Jupeles, Jupilles. It's French, so Jupelet, Fleur, Fleur, Jupiler Fleur, French oak staves. Let's see. The fun fact is, Jupiler oak comes from a French royal forest, and although it is typically used in winemaking, the Dark Arts team has a custom toast profile that is the perfect cherry on top of this bourbon. I would say, a little quirky, a little different, but also it was familiar, also warm, hug, bourbon. It felt so. I'm getting on board. I know what they're doing here. This is good. 108 proof, great proof point. 7.5 years old, fantastic age. The mash bill is 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley. So we're in a pretty high rye bourbon, which is where I may be getting some of that. I gave some of those rye notes, and so this could be a rye. We're getting pretty close with the 36% rye. So again, we've got the Dark Arts Whiskey House from Lexington, Kentucky. Straight bourbon whiskey finished with toasted Jupiler Fleur, French oak staves. 108 proof, 7.5 years old, 60% corn, 36% rye, 4% malted barley, and it's a 6 for me. It's a pretty darn good bottle, and I'm excited that I got to try some Dark Arts, and thank you for joining me. See you on the next one, which is going to be Bottle C, and we'll see what the heck that brings us. Thank you, guys. Love you.